So as we talked about, there are always these 3 points that we have in a person's story. We have the call where you show up into the story, right? We have the dip where you hit rock bottom, and then we have what we hope is the breakthrough. So I want to share with you kind of my story. So my story is in the call where I show up in the story. It actually, to understand me and where I'm at, you've got to go all the way back. You've got to go all the way back to when I'm a boy in high school and understand something about me. And that first thing is that I've got an older brother. He's an amazing guy, right? And I've really grown to love and respect him. And he's 4 years older than I am. So where this starts is that as I'm getting ready to enter into my freshman year of high school, my brother has just graduated. Okay, he left the building, and what's really amazing is that there became a theme to my life, and the theme to my life is what I've discovered now, looking back and understanding how these stories work, is that the theme of my life is chasing ghosts. Okay, so my brother left, and as he left, I entered in. What I didn't know going into that experience is that I was about to be chasing ghosts for the next 4 years. And what I mean by that is you need to understand him. He was the guy who, man, everything he did, everything he touched just seemed to be magic. He was that typical overachiever, right? He was the guy that was good looking, right? He was incredibly fit, athletic. Co-captain the football team, in the top of his class, voted into the school's Hall of Fame, right? National merit finalist, even sang in the choir, did plays and musicals. It's like, okay, so he's athletic, he was artistic, he was popular, he was charming, he was smart. So that's kind of then he went out and dated the homecoming queen, right? This guy was that guy. And so then when I come into it, that's the ghost, the presence. So the teachers, the coaches, even the student body, right? They're wondering how much of my older brother do I embody? How much am I carrying through? And so as he graduates, not only does he graduate all those things, but then he goes on and he goes to college, but not just any college, right? He goes to MIT for engineering, the school of engineering in the country, right? So he goes there where he plays football. He runs the Boston Marathon twice, right? He marries the homecoming queen. So this is that guy. He was named like the engineering student of the year in the world or something crazy. I don't know exactly what the title was, but the guy just was that guy. And so all through high school, I found myself trying to be more athletic, be more popular, do better in school. And I got burnt out, man. I was getting fried, right? I was absolutely fried. It wasn't me. I was not living my life. I was chasing his ghost. So it's fascinating, right? You fast forward after I get out of high school. I mean, I was depressed. On the surface, everything looked cool, but in high school, I was getting sick. I ended up skipping school because I just couldn't deal with a lot of things. But I still did well. I still did fine just because I pushed myself to compete with that ghost. But then let's fast forward 5 years later. So I'm 23 years old, and I choose a career that seems to be a career based on chasing ghosts. I'm 23 years old. I get into the real estate industry, right? So I'm in Des Moines, Iowa. I decide to go into real estate, and at first I'm just kind of having fun with it. I thought it'd be a good way to make a great living, maybe sell some houses, see some cool places, right? Meet some neat people. But I started getting some taste of success, and then very early on I got involved with hiring a coach, and that coach started pushing me. And as I started making more money, I started reinvesting more in my education because I wanted to grow, because I'm a competitive guy. And so then in this real estate industry, what do we love to do at conferences? We love to have agent panels, right? The stars sitting up on stage. So I'm going to these agent panels, and I see these people that are doing 1,000 homes a year, right? Or they're doing 100 million in volume or more, and they're just crushing it. And so I'm thinking, well, geez, I need to compete with this image. And so I start really pushing myself, and I start doing okay. I start selling 75 or 80 homes a year, and things are going well, and I'm young. I'm 25, 26 years old, but I feel like I'm still not hitting it. I'm still not nailing it. I'm still not on the star panel, right? I'm still not that guy. And so at the age of, at the age of 27, I opened my own real estate brokerage, okay, my own mom and pop, where I've started building a team with a listing manager, a couple of buyer's agents, right, an administrative assistant, and I keep pushing and pushing. And then by the age of 30, I have the opportunity to open my first real estate franchise. It was a Keller Williams franchise. I opened it in 2003 at the age of 30 years old. And at that time, it was the early 2000s, and there was this feeling of a land grab going on, right? I'm like, man, I need some of this. I want this. I want the jet. I want the car. I want the house. I want the beach place, right? Because I'm in the Midwest in Springfield, Missouri. I'm like, I want these things. I want this lifestyle. And so I need more, right? So I get competitive. I go to these mastermind panels and everything else, and I'm trying to learn what it is they're doing, how I need to do it. And I'm chasing this person on stage who I don't even know, but I'm chasing them, right? And so I open up that Missouri franchise. Then I get up and I relocate. I move down to South Florida, where I open up a South Beach office. I help open up Coral Gables office. I open up a title company. I open up a mortgage company. I buy 22 rental properties, right? I've got to have more. I've got to have all this stuff. And if I want to be considered successful, I need all these things. I need to just kill it, right? So I'm working super hard. I'm busting my tail. My relationships stink, but I think I'm on the right path, right? Because on paper, I look like I'm doing pretty well. And then what happens is the crash happens, right? 2006, 2007. And I go through some tough times. My mortgage company has to close. My title company has to close. I have to give up my ownership interest in the South Beach office and the Coral Gables office. I have to give the keys back to the bank on my 22 rental properties. My house goes into short sale. I go through a divorce, right? Everything then seems to be crumbling around me. And you think, based on the 3 points we talk about in the life story, the call, then the dip, and then the breakthrough, you might think that this is the dip. But the reality is, I'm not to the dip yet in my life, because I think, no problem, I'll just work my way out of it. So I get up and I pack again, and I move to upstate New York. So central New York, actually, I moved to Syracuse. So I'm in Syracuse, and I help open up a Syracuse franchise. I help consult the Albany group, the Rochester group. I'm talking to them about becoming a regional director for the company. I'm doing all these things. I buy two more rental properties. I buy a commercial building. Right? More. I still think the answer is work harder, acquire more, and build more. And I'm stressed, right? I'm still not happy, but I feel like I'm building the paper back up. So then I have a chance to go down to northern Mississippi and turn around a real estate franchise there. So I'm there, and I'm working, I'm busting my butt on that franchise. And I take ownership there, and then I buy 3 more rental properties. I buy the big house, right? I get remarried. Awesome lady, awesome understanding lady who helps ground me and bring me down to earth. If I get married, I have a baby, right? And as I have my daughter, what I'm realizing is I'm working more and more and maybe rebuilding my paper, but I'm not getting any happier. So I'm going to get out of leadership. I'm going to get out of being the road warrior. I'd move down to South Florida, where I take on the role of CEO of one of the top real estate teams in all of North America. And I'm there, so I'm working more, right? And I think this is the path. And I'm actually doing better. I'm getting happier there. I'm finding more balance. But then one day I get a phone call. It's a phone call from my mother. And my mother's on the other end. She says, Jeff, we need to talk. Your dad's sick. He's not doing well. As a matter of fact, he has cancer. And so this was the second time my dad had gotten cancer. So it didn't completely throw me off, because the first time happened back in the early 90s, and he fought it and had pushed hard for another 20 years. So, but it was a reality, right? It's like, okay, this is real life. And so I decided to take a leap of faith, and I was trying to learn more about family being important. And my father and I had a strained relationship through the years, and I decided if anything was ever going to go wrong, that I never wanted to look back and say, I wish I'd had a relationship with him. So I packed up my wife, packed up my daughter, who was 3 at the time, and we moved back to southern Missouri. And because of working so hard, we had the opportunity to take a year off and spend with him before going back to work. But what's interesting is, during that time back there, I'm getting to know him, I'm bonding, I'm learning so much about this man. And what I discovered about this man, to help paint a picture, some things I knew, some things I didn't, but one is that he was a very passionate man. He's very passionate about his life. He's very clear on what he felt his purpose was. He felt his purpose was to provide a good life, a good, good, solid, stable life for his family. And he felt like it was giving back to the education community. See, my dad was a teacher. He taught for 30 plus years, and then he became what's called a director for the National Education Association, and representing them in their fight for certain rights. And he was very passionate about it, and he worked all the way up until 70 years old. And he was also very passionate with other things. He was a big guy too, right? I mean, he worked out still when he was 70. He still lifted weights 2-3 days a week, and went to the gym, and he was just very committed to being the best version of himself, and being true to himself, and being true to his values as he could be. And so that last year that I had, I really learned a lot from him. And where my dip actually happens is that I'm over there, and I'd moved about 20 minutes or 30 minutes away from my father. And one day I get another phone call. This was about 6 or 7 months in us being back in town. And it's my mom, and she said, "Hey, Jeff, your dad's had a fall. Can you come over and help us get him in bed? He can't get up and get in bed." So I'm like, okay. So I hop in my car and I drive. And again, it's maybe 15, 20 minutes probably on the drive over there. And when I show up, I walk into the house. I end up kind of walking down the hallway and back into the master bedroom area where my dad had fallen. And when I walked into that room, what I saw was this man who had previously been so strong mentally, physically. As I told you, he worked out all the time. He was, 6 foot, 210 pounds or so, right? And big, broad shoulders. And when I got there and I saw him, he was laying on the floor. And through the chemotherapy and the radiation and the inability just to eat right and not work out, this guy had shriveled. I mean, he'd shriveled down. I'm guessing to 150 pounds, maybe 160, maybe. I mean, that's 50 pounds. He'd shriveled down, and he was laying there on the ground, completely naked, with a catheter in. Couldn't move, absolute mess. He couldn't even lift himself up to get into bed. He could hardly move. My mom couldn't do anything. So here it was. It took me 15 or 20 minutes to drive there. They had already tried for 10 or 15 minutes to get him up. So my dad had been laying there basically helpless for, let's say, 30 minutes. So I bend down, I pick him up and move him over, lay him into bed. And, man, I can still see it like it's yesterday. So I move him over to bed, and then I, kiss him on the forehead, and I get in my car, and I drive back home. And it's during this drive back home that honestly is where my dip happens. And what happens is I'm driving home, I'm sitting there thinking about my father and the conditioned state he's in. And what I've learned from this man is that you should live your life full of passion and purpose and strength of character and values, and always pursue, so that at the end of the day you really have no regrets. And I missed that lesson. Instead, somewhere along the way, my chasing ghosts, I pursued a different path, right? I pursued this path of acquisition, of greed, of accumulating stuff for the sake of doing it to show people on the outside that I was worth something, that I was worthy of something. And what I realized as I looked back is that I had not been pursuing my passions at all. My passions, as I got more clear about them, is my passions are about giving back to others, is teaching them like he did for 30 years. I love to teach. I love to train. I love to share. Right? I love to help other people succeed. When I hear that people I've spent time with are killing it in the industry and having fun and balance and checking everything off their bucket list, I feed off that fuel. And so why is it that I wasn't listening to my heart? Why is it I wasn't listening to that? And so what I decided at that moment was that I was going to commit, that I was going to take a leap of faith, that I was going to start pouring my heart and soul into helping others achieve and grow and succeed. And the other thing is that I wanted to do it from an integrity-based position. I did not want to be this person that became a coach or built a business that was honestly about sucking people into a webinar funnel or a live event funnel to where they're always trying to sell you something else, getting into your pocket every time you turn around. I worked for one of those coaching companies, and I've been there before, and it's not something that I believe in. What I do believe in is leaving a legacy, and not only for the others, but more importantly, honestly, in my case, is for my family. And my daughter now is 6 years old, and the legacy I want to leave for her is I want her to understand that you can build a legacy, that you can build a corporation, you can build a business that's highly successful and highly profitable by coming from contribution first and focusing on profits second. That I believe that if I focus enough on coming from contribution and giving back to you what it is that you need, helping you discover what it is that your life mission is, what your purpose is, and then how to take real estate and make it be the vehicle that lifts up that life mission, if I do that for enough people, by default, profits come. And I get to take care of my family, and my daughter will understand that's done with integrity, and it's done with love first, and it's not about greed, it's not about selling, it's not about any of that junk. It's about building a responsible corporation that helps others succeed first. And so I took this huge leap of faith, right? I stepped out of the CEO role of running this team. I was given an opportunity to go back there. I was given an opportunity to take other real estate franchises over and turn them around, and I turned them down. I decided to stay in Southern Missouri. I decided to focus on my family. I decided to focus on creating the training and education platform and the tools to help others succeed first. And at first I was scared because I was walking away from a great income, a great base salary, a great all this stuff. But the reality is what's happened is the breakthrough. So once I hit the dip and got clear on my purpose and why I was here, the breakthrough happened. And over the last 2 years, I've more than tripled my income. Right? Last year, I took 12 weeks off, and I went and spent 6 weeks in Florida. I went and spent 2 weeks at the lake, right, with friends and other couples, and we had an amazing time. I got to take my daughter around everywhere. We have the opportunity now to homeschool our daughter and spend the kind of time and pour energy into her, right? So we are doing the things that we want to do while changing other people's lives, and at the same time, because we're being true to my heart and doing those things, our income has literally tripled. So guys, I wanted you to hear what my story is, and I want you to understand why I'm so passionate about helping you find your story, and why I'm so passionate about helping you find the tools and the support and the pieces that you need to then go on and see your breakthrough. So as I've discovered what my big why is and how I'm going to leave a legacy, I want you to ask yourself what yours is.